5 minutes late. That's on me. We will bring this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I bet you we can catch up on this 5 minutes relatively quickly here. Dolly, if you would do the roll.
Supervisor Flaherty.
I am here.
Councilman Cahill.
Here.
Councilman Abbott.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here. And Deputy Supervisor Cataldi is not here tonight, and she will be very much missed because I watched her run last week's meeting, and as a critic, I say that she runs a better meeting than me. We'll just leave it at that. Better style. The minutes from the August 27th workshop were distributed out to the board and reviewed. I make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
As were the first formal board meeting of the month's minutes, September 3rd, 2020. Those minutes were distributed to the board and reviewed. I would make a motion that we approve those.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Yeah, this is the second board meeting in a row that I'm like, usually I see the councilman or councilwoman who comes in to look at the bills. If I've been playing hooky a lot, because I don't know who came in this week.
I did.
All right.
I picked
Oh, was it when we met for assessment?
No, next
Okay.
day I was in, but I come in, I get them, and I go do them in the break room, and that's probably why you don't see me.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, next time when you're doing it, stop in. We'll have coffee. You looked at them.
I'm
What'd you
sorry.
think?
I don't drink coffee.
No.
They're good. The bills are fine.
Okay.
There was a couple missed signatures, but that's been taken care of.
Okay.
I recommend we approve the bills as submitted.
Second.
Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty.
Aye. And I did review the prepaid warrants as submitted by the Director of Finance, and I make a move to approve those.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
And along those lines, at some point, I got to tell you, Paul, you like clockwork. It's Chris Halligan that sends the email on the tax. It's like clockwork. She is a very disciplined person. It's impressive. With that, do you mind if I hand the baton to you to explain this next one?
Yeah, back on August 20th, we approved the transfer of $125,000 from the Parkland Trust Fund to fund capital project H0227, which basically funds renovations to our gymnasium at the Recreation Center. So this resolution tonight just provides the budget amendment within the Parkland Trust Fund so that we can fund that transfer over to the capital project.
Do any of the board members have any questions or comments?
Yes, this is to fund all the renovations, the flooring, and the
Correct.
new curtain,
Well, there's a number of things.
and the cleaning, and they're well underway. The curtain is in.
Yep.
They're in the process of not painting, but cleaning all the upper stuff, all the air ducts and all that, and that already looks quite nice. And the flooring is supposed to start in a week or two, and they expect it to be done in less than a week once they start.
It's amazing. Will they have to play basketball with masks on, Barry?
I don't know.
Can you?
I don't think so.
How do
I'm
you-
not sure.
I digress. Well, I propose a resolution to amend the Parkland Trust Fund 2020 budget to finance capital project 80227, which will renovate the gymnasium within the Recreation Center, account E9950.90100. Transfer to capital fund will be increased by $125,000 via funding from account E599 .4009 to appropriated fund balance.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Abbott,
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
As a sidebar, I met with Chris Bilo, our Parks and Recs Commissioner, today over at the Rec Center. I won't hold him to this, and he was not able to attend tonight, but he's a fiscally conservative guy, and
Very much so.
he thinks he's going to come in under.
Very much so.
And I do appreciate that. He's watching it.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Kind of a pleasure to work with
Yep.
when it comes to that type of stuff.
We had our first ProStar meeting Monday night with him,
Yeah.
and it went well.
Yeah. It's only been a few short months, but you get a feel pretty quickly for their fiscal attitude, and I guess I'm biased. I like when the department head is a little fiscally conservative. What does that say about me, John?
I like it when they're a lot fiscally.
Well, whatever. Well, actually, I'm going to keep the baton right with you, Paul, because the next one is kind of falls in your bailiwick, I guess.
Yes, correct. On Friday, actually September 11th, we filed the preliminary budget with the town clerk. And that's the budget that will be subject to a public hearing, and we're proposing to pass a resolution to have that public hearing on October 15th. So a little less than a month away.
Yeah, and I know that we talked about this, I think, at the last meeting, formal meeting, is that, or was it the workshop that we, no, it had to be the, that now as it publishes in the October 8th or October 7th edition of the Webster Herald,
Correct.
It'll be a summary of the budget, but because of the best practice that has been done by the town of Webster over the years, from what you guys have said on the board, no other town that you know of does it, and that is
No.
the detailed line item by line item of the budget is made available to pretty much every household in Webster. And that is going far and above what the law demands. And I said at the meeting, I like that best practice. I think it's great. Because of some situational aspects of the Webster Herald, they're falling victim to COVID and the financial problems of a business. They're not able to send out the October 7th edition to every resident in town. So we'll put the summary in that edition for the number of subscribers to the Webster Herald. But really within a day or two of that coming out, the Town Times will come out to every household in the town along with every business, and it will have all those line items in it.
Can we be sure that the timing will be good?
I would bet my life on it.
Okay.
And Barry, without getting into too much,
We're working on it.
Paul,
I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about the post office.
you know I shouldn't have bet my life, because that is the one
We got you.
variable or the wild card that we can't control. The people that are helping us with the Town Times, and Paul, you got a chance to meet them yesterday.
Yes.
They're someone in business that I love. They underpromise and overdeliver, and they've shown to me that consistently.
Okay,
And that's why I turned to them on this, because failure's not an option.
that's right.
You know, it needs to get out. It needs to be out 5-6 days
Ahead of the hearing.
before the hearing and all that. So anyway, like I just said, we'd catch up on the 5 minutes, and I just blabbed on. But I think that's important to understand. The budget process this year, to say the least, is unique because of COVID. It'll be interesting to see the tentative budget that was filed with Dolly, that we voted on in 2 weeks ago. How that tentative budget, the one thing I do know is that it's under the 2% cap. What the final budget will be very interesting, because over the next month or 6 weeks or whatever, not to give away anything, but that was it yesterday. You just opened the bid on the cleaning contract
That's correct.
for all the facilities. And Dolly and Paul and I need to sit down on it, but I think it looks good.
Looks good.
And the tentative budget has all of those facilities cleaning from the 2020 contracts, the individual ones. If the board, as it makes its way to the board, probably as soon as October 1st, they'll see what bids we got and whether it's the low bid or, what we call it now, the,
Lowest responsible bid.
yeah, but we just did something earlier in the year,
Yeah,
it's
I
an
know.
added value or best value or
Best bid
whatever.
or something.
And so it'll be, but there's savings in there that are not reflected in the tentative budget. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I think there's some, some movement that'll happen, and I'd like to, see, I'm looking at that guy who said you wish it was more fiscal fair. The movement might be
A little bit
less. Anyway. Okay. I gotta quickly catch up on that 5 minutes from this one, but financial stuff I could talk about all day. I propose a resolution to establish October 15, 2020 as the date for the public hearing on the 2021 budget.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye?
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Now, Dolly, wait a minute. I'm trying to think whose bailiwick this is. Is this you, Josh?
No, this is the records retention.
Yeah. It is you, okay. Well then, Dolly,
I'll give you a condensed version of the resolution. Each type of local government, towns, villages, county government, school districts, all use a different retention schedule for archiving and disposing of their records. And the New York State Archive and Records Administration is now requiring the use of one single comprehensive schedule for all local governments. So the board must formally adopt the new schedule prior to its utilization and must do so prior to January 1st, 2021.
okay. Geez, I wish I knew who was the fastest reader of us, but in the absence of Charlie being here to answer whether I should read this whole resolution that he drafted, I think safe.
Actually, I drafted it, but the New York State Archives gave me some verbiage to place in here,
Okay.
and I used that verbiage. I just gave some background,
Sure.
whereases are.
Well, okay, now that's important for the board to know, and by definition, having our town attorney not review it or draft it is not it's not by definition a non-starter, but it is something to be needs to be factored in. So, Dolly, you pulled this. Can I say that again?
Yes. So the state archives gave me this model resolution to use.
Mm-hmm.
So where you see the resolved, now therefore be it resolved and further resolved, that language was provided to me by the New York State Archives.
Okay.
And any language prior to that, I was just giving a background on how originally in 1988 is when the state started to require government to follow this retention and disposition schedule.
I want to. Have we, as a town, done this in the past?
I'm assuming they did this in 1988 when,
By law, the
It
Sarah
was
law,
adopted
by
back
law,
then.
talks about
Okay.
retention, deletion, disposal of all town records.
Sure.
It sets dates and times, how long you have to retain it.
Right.
And some of it's lifetime, some of it's 7 years.
Sure.
That's all this is. They're just telling us we gotta put it in one document now.
now they're saying that all the local governments must use the same schedule. So we as town or village has to use this MU schedule, but now that's expiring come January 1st.
Right.
And we must all use this, now they're referring to as the LGS1. So all
Okay.
county and cities, towns, villages, and school districts will now use this one comprehensive schedule.
Okay. Well, there's 4 board members here tonight. I mean, this is on one end of the spectrum, it's kind of a housekeeping item because,
If you wish to wait, it's fine. We
and
can
that,
have
I
to
just,
January 1st.
I have become accustomed to, maybe I lean on Charlie too much, but even from my business back, I liked attorneys looking at things
Sure.
just for that. But if this is just boilerplate,
state requirement, we don't have any option.
Let it rip. Okay, well then I'm gonna read this resolution.
You can simplify it.
Pardon?
You can simplify it. Just say that whereas the New York State Archives and Records have required the town to move from MU1 to the LGS1 utilization, therefore be it resolved that the town will follow the LGS1 records for Article 57A.
Did you just make that motion?
Yes.
I second that.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Oh, now you got it.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Alright.
Very good.
Well, I don't know if Josh, because, I know Mr. Meesday was outside, I don't know if, Mr. Mazzullo is outside, but, next up on the agenda, well, I'll just call it what it is in, simple terms. Mr. Meesday at 517 Deerhaven Drive would like to put a fence within a town drainage easement. And there he is. I guess for those watching at home, these type of motions or these hit the town board and not really the planning board or the zoning board of appeals is because, really the town board has to hear and approve such requests because, and I know that Barry and Bill, you probably have a better explanation. It's an easement is the law, it's, right? I mean,
It's part of your property, it's your map.
right, but, by definition, if you, within the title of your property, you have an easement, whether it's conservation or drainage or whatever, you're not really supposed to put anything on it.
Correct.
So if you want to put something on it, and I'll segue over to you, all right, you have to come before the governance of the municipality and explain what you're putting on up and why, so it gives us at least a chance to say whether we can improve that or not.
Right.
So I'll hand the baton to you.
Okay, you guys can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, I'm a licensed land surveyor. I know all about easements, and I understand the legitimacy of easements. I understand title. I understand the legal aspects that go along with property. I understand topography and all of that stuff. So I do understand what I'm asking for and what I'm asking of you. My wife and I moved in 2 years ago. And day one, we were met with opposition from some of our neighbors, just by the fact that our property had markers in the ground at the four corners that our neighbors didn't like because all of a sudden, now that we bought the house, the property corners surfaced. And they're like, okay, well, that's not where we've been mowing to all these years. Excuse me, that's not your line. And it was like, okay, and to the point where day one, after we moved in, our neighbor was stomping and flailing her arms and yelling at me over where the property corner is. And I get that. I mean, that does happen. People are used to a certain thing, and then all of a sudden it appears different, and they're not used to that. And I get that because I take those complaint calls at work. And then my neighbor in the back of me didn't, because I use Dish Network for my TV provider. And because of some trees that were in the yard, they couldn't put the dish on the house, so they had to mount it on a pole in the yard. I didn't like that, but, my neighbor didn't like it because he could see it from his yard. So then he proceeded to say, well, I'm going to plant trees to block you so that I don't have to look at that anymore. So we agreed that I would pay to have the trees taken down so that we could move the dish to the roof. And we did. We paid to have the trees taken down. However, every week from the time, this happened a year after we moved in, we finally agreed to this. And every week from the time that I said, I have hired a tree guy, he would come over bi-weekly, 3 times a week to say, when is the tree guy coming? When is the tree guy coming? And then he started calling my tree guy and harassing him. So then finally we got the trees down. The guy came on a Monday morning, took the trees down. And that afternoon, when are the stumps being ground? When are they being ground? I don't know. So he came back the next day and ground the stumps. Well, when is the mulch pile being taken care of? I would pull in my driveway, and he would instantly come over, asking me as soon as I got home from work. And finally, it's like, you know what, after 3 days, I didn't know when the guy was coming, so I didn't know I would have to then take away from my kids' softball time and sports events to then clean up this pile of mulch from where the trees were taken down. And finally we said, you know what, I will take care of it, leave us alone. And we received a threat letter from him the next day, or I'm sorry, the next week, saying, if you don't return all the stumps and all the wood from the trees that was cut down, we are going to press charges against you saying you stole the wood. And you have until Saturday to comply. So on the first day of school in 2019, when my kids got off the bus, I got to tell my kids, you guys have to stay here. We have to go to the police department and bring them this letter that we received from the neighbor. And so we did. And that's when we met Officer Turner. And Officer Turner came out and spoke with my neighbor and spoke with me and said, listen, I don't want you guys talking to each other. I no longer want either one of you on each other's property, which I was fine with. I had no reason to go on my neighbor's property. But my neighbor was quite nosy into everything I did. And he still is. He still stands in his back window watching me in my backyard, watching my kids play in my backyard. And it's to the point now, it has been, up until about this year, when I'm fed up with it, it has been a point where we don't go out in our backyard. We play in our front yard because I don't want to be watched. I don't want my kids to be watched. And Officer Turner even said, he goes, well, why don't you put up a 6-foot stockade right on the line? And I know from experience that is a very, big thing to try to pass. And so I'm not asking for that. I understand, drainage easements are for drainage purposes. However, in this particular case, there is no swale along the back line channeling water. There is no, there's nothing there other than actually some of my neighbors' landscaping, which if there were some giant mega flood, it would, their landscaping would hinder anything. But all I'm asking for is to be able to take advantage of my yard, demarcate my line so that I no longer have to have this point of contention, and put a nice 4-foot white vinyl picket fence on my rear line. And then also along my sideline, I do understand that there is an underground drainage pipe that leads from the drainage inlet in the back corner out to the front. I know that when they dig these, they only dig them about 3 feet wide, and they sink the pipe and they put crusher run stone around it to reinforce the strength of the pipe so that the ground doesn't collapse the pipe. And since I am here asking for a rear line fence, I would like to at least say, hey, I understand that I can't put a fence on my sideline as well because there is a pipe there. However, 10 feet is a lot of land to lose that in the legal world I have seen in my land surveying that people tend to say, oh, your fence is that far in? That means I can move on over a little bit. And I'm worried that that may happen. So I would like to ask for, instead of the 10 feet, I would just like to meet halfway and be 5 feet along that sideline. I do understand that I'm asking for a license agreement. I do understand that I am responsible financially if the town has to come in and do anything. And I would be responsible to remove that fence so the town could do their work. and then, under the agreement, would be able to put it back up in the agreed upon position. I do understand fully what I am asking for.
Wow. I was really hoping one of you guys would start the comments or whatever, but because the fence is going around the perimeter of the backyard, obviously you're here about the drainage easement and the licensing agreement. Was there any need to have to go to the ZBA as far as the setbacks?
Yeah.
And has that already happened?
No, because he's proposing 4 foot.
It's only 440, doesn't need a variance.
There you go.
So if it's a 4-foot high fence,
You can put it on the property line.
He could put it right on the property line if he chose to.
Okay. So, okay, the 5 foot in from the property line in the back it's not so much the going in 5 feet, it's that it's in the easement. That's the only thing that needs to be.
Yes.
Wow.
so for a 4-foot fence, you don't have to adhere to the same setbacks at all. But if it was a 6-foot tall, then
You have to
you
be
have
10
to
feet.
adhere. So we don't need to go down this road, but that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
It's the rules.
Well, I understand.
It's a different
but
kettle of
that's
fish.
It's one of those things that needed
Yeah.
to get discussed at some point, but, okay.
So, the 20-foot wide storm drainage easement is actually 10 foot on the side of your property and 10 foot on the side of your neighbor's property?
That is correct.
So, is that correct? Right, okay. I didn't know if you said that. So you want to go on the property line, which by definition means it's right in the middle of the...
Correct. But like I said, there's no swale, there's no channel, there's no swamp, there's no, it's not like a drainage easement that is naturally occurring for like real drainage. I mean, between my yard and my neighbor's yard, it's actually flat. There's no
Yeah.
I don't want to say there's no purpose, but there's
Does
really,
any water get to the catch basin?
not from my yard. It does from my neighbor's yard because I've noticed that my yard, from us to the west, our yards are all flat. But to the east, which is off the page, towards lot 42, their yards do
Drain towards that catch basin.
Yes, they do. And actually, right around that catch basin, it acts almost like a spoon would. It just bowls around the catch basin and never really affects my yard.
Is your lot line right almost over the top of the 12-inch pipe?
Almost. Actually, the pipe is marginally on my neighbor's lot.
Okay, so if you're 5 feet inside that, then you're gonna be 5 feet inside to the west of the drainage pipe.
Actually, it ends up being about 6 to 7 feet,
That's plenty.
which is why I felt it would be mutually agreeable to ask for the 5 feet.
So my question is, you expressed concern that your neighbor would, that they've been watching you and watching your kids in the backyard. You're only putting up a 4-foot fence. They're still gonna be able to see you, correct?
I do understand that.
So-
My whole thing is to just demarcate that line and just be done with the fact that we both have to mow to an even point. We both have to clean up leaves to an even point. I can now clean up leaves within my backyard and just leave it at that. And, I do understand that, and I did contemplate that. But, I have dogs, I have kids. Recently, actually, a neighborhood dog got out or was loose and attacked a dog 2 doors down from me, and with severe puncture wounds. And I'm concerned about that as well, because everybody says, why don't you get an invisible fence? That's one of my concerns, is other animals entering into my yard as well. So for me, a 4-foot fence is comparable to the fact that I'm getting most of what I would ask for. I understand the whole watching and this and that, but, if I put up some bushes or something like that, but I just want that line there. I'm tired of tiptoeing along that line.
Well, he's just asking for us to grant him an easement to put it in the easement, in the drainage easement. Okay, he's gonna put up a fence,
Right, a license.
a license. He's just asking us to grant him that. And,
Highway superintendent said it was fine, he didn't have any issues with it.
He didn't. Once he found out the type of fence and the size, he was like, yeah, that's, you know.
okay.
And he reiterated in his email what you already know from your profession. He said, as long as the homeowner knows that it could be at his cost someday, that we have to go in there and.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
that's all in his letter in here.
Yes.
And he wrote.
Yep, I made sure of that.
Well, and once again, Bill, you think this merits what we did on the last one? Just kind of give the highlights that this is a resolution to grant a license agreement for the property at 517 Deerhaven Drive for a 4-foot vinyl fence on the property line that is within a Webster Town drainage easement. That's the edited version of this. Or I can read the 2 pages of this.
Abbreviated is fine.
And as we contemplate that, our town attorney, Charlie Genesi, was not here this evening. He's on vacation, but the guy is always on call. We called him, he called from, I think, dinner.
That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, he's a good man. And he said, as long as you understand that, you know, he's got to draft up the license agreement and get it over to you. I have to sign it as supervisor. If indeed the board ends up voting to give you the license agreement for this fence.
Yes, I've already spoken with my attorney too,
Okay.
so.
You understand you'll have to file a new map showing the easement at your cost?
File what kind of map?
You're gonna get a license agreement from the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that agreement is that you will file that with the Monroe County Clerk's Office?
Oh, yes, as a deed. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you want to read this, or you want it read?
It's better safe than sorry maybe on this, so this is
I
a,
move that we grant limited relief from an establishment easement at 517 Deerhaven Drive in Webster, New York. Whereas a 20-foot wide storm drainage easement was granted to the town of Webster as recorded in the Monroe County Clerk's Office in Library 9695 of Deeds, page 473, on and along the southern eastern boundaries of the property of 517 Deerhaven Drive, town of Webster. Whereas Scott and Kaylin Measday have applied to erect a 4-foot high vinyl fence upon and within the aforesaid easement in conformance with the height and setback requirements as set forth in the town code, the code of town of Webster, and that in event the placement and or height of such fence is not in such conformance, such fence shall be not considered constructed unless the proper variances are received by the town of Webster Zoning Board of Appeals. Therefore, it be resolved pursuant to the application of Scott and Keelan Meason, owner of 517 Deerhaven Drive, and in recognition of the hardship created and relief sought herein is not granted, the limited detriment to the town of Webster, and upon consideration of all relevant factors, the town board hereby allows the construction of a 4-foot high vinyl fence which will exist upon and encroach upon the easement affecting 517 Deerhaven Drive, town of Webster. Upon the destruction or demolition of the aforesaid fence or any part of it, through natural causes or otherwise, the owners of the fence will not reconstruct it without specific resolution of the town board authorizing its replacement or reconstruction. This resolution shall in no way affect the rights, if any, of any other public entities or public utilities in or to said easement. Finished.
Second.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
aye. And then Scott, like I said, I mean, whether through you or through your attorney, attorney, Charlie Jesse, will be back next week, our
Okay.
town attorney, and we have all your information here. He does the drafting and, go over with the fees, which Councilman Abbott already kind of got into. And it seems like I said, from your profession, you are well aware of the cost and the risk and all that stuff, so that certainly helps the situation, so. And one thing I did learn from the last time we did this, please don't put that fence up until you have the license agreement signed by
Oh, absolutely
us.
not.
Okay?
No, because then after the license agreement, I still have to get the building permit, so.
Yeah. There's you know the process.
Yep.
Which, actually, if are you Mr. Mazzullo?
Yes, I am.
Well, then you learned a lot, didn't you?
He was
That's all
taking
right.
notes.
You should definitely take him out for coffee or for beer and buy. Okay?
Said it all for me.
You're good?
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
all
man.
of you.
All right.
Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you, you too.
Good night.
Well, do you go by William or Bill?
Bill.
Bill, if you want to come up to the podium, I don't want you to have a false sense of, well, this is a walk in the park, because I just saw it done, because I will say it's interesting, if you heard my preamble, that it's the reason why it's in front of the town board. Easements, they're no-nos for putting fences and sheds and anything.
I understand.
We were talking earlier that I think in 9 months, you are I think, of course my memory's going, the 4th request for such a structure or something to go on an easement, so they are not taken lightly. So, anyway, Bill, I'll hand the microphone to you, and I can't wait to hear your story, because that was an interesting one.
Mine's pretty simple, actually. I put a pool in for my family. My property line on the map goes from telephone pole down to telephone pole, and the easement is from the east side of the telephone pole 20 feet into my property. My request is that I can run a chain link fence on the property line. What would happen is I would have to cross over that easement to get to the other side of my property. One of your representatives from the town did come out from the highway department. I spoke with him. He agreed that the drainage easement is there, obviously, but he was not concerned at all that what I was trying to accomplish was going to have any issues for drainage. Kind of in the same position as the gentleman before me, I've never seen water on the side of my house. I mean, knock on wood, my basement is as dry as I've ever seen in multiple homes that I've owned. So if there is an easement there, it's working, and what I'm planning on doing with this fence is to solely cross over it. I was actually going to put a gate on the easement, so if somebody did need access, it would be accessible for work to be done. I also am aware that if someone needed to get in to perform any work, I would be responsible for the financial aspect of taking the fence down, getting it out of the way, and reinstalling it if there was any, services needed to be done on that easement.
And Barry, you had mentioned before, and I know that based on your background running the highway department, you're probably the drainage expert of anybody in this room. Is it because if the drain isn't there, or the swell, it's just that the pipe goes underneath there, the 12-inch?
Sometimes it's just a swale.
It's just a swale.
From my
So it's
understanding,
flat.
oh, sorry to interrupt.
I'm sorry, is it?
What's your question?
I would assume that, I shouldn't assume anything. So if we gotta get in there to work on it, it's because we got a problem with the pipe that's there?
I don't think there is a pipe here.
It's not, but it's
No,
not showing up.
No, sir, it's just
a
the
drainage
swale.
Oh, it's a swale, okay, so I
Yes, there is no-
misunderstood, I thought you said.
Drains in people's backyards, the drainage doesn't always include a pipe or a catch basin in their yard. Sometimes it's just the swale that goes across their yard.
And I misunderstood, I thought you said
eventually
this.
gets to, like, the catch basin on
Sure.
the other guy's corner.
Yeah. That's what I got in my ear. I have
don't know if it's natural, it's probably really been built, it's
a
So
square.
generally what Joe will look at when he goes out there is to see if the fence is going to be put in an area that may cause a problem,
yeah.
okay? And he'll determine that.
So,
And his letter says,
Look at his email, says he didn't
Right.
have an issue.
yeah.
yeah, says, to Josh says that it's okay.
Geez, Barry, you were so good at the last one, would you mind?
I move that the town board grant limited relief from an established easement at 1110 Brown Drive, Webster, New York. Whereas a 20-foot wide storm drainage easement was granted to the town of Webster as shown in map recorded in the Monroe County Clerk's Office in Liber 175 of maps, page 99, and along a portion of the eastern boundary of the property of 1110 Brown Drive, town of Webster. Whereas William and Stacy Mazzullo have applied to erect a 4-foot high chain link fence upon and within the aforesaid easement in conformance with the height and setback requirements as set forth in the code of the town of Webster, and that in the event of the placement and or height of such a fence is not in such conformance, such fence shall not be constructed unless the proper variances are received from the town of Webster Zoning Board of Appeals. Therefore, it be resolved pursuant to the application of William and Stacy Mazzullo, owners of 1110 Brown Drive, and in recognition of the hardship created if the relief sought herein is not granted, the limited detriment to the town of Webster, and upon consideration of all relevant factors, the Webster Town Board hereby allows the construction of a 4-foot high chain link fence which will exist upon and encroach upon the easement affecting 1110 Brown Drive, the town of Webster. Upon the destruction or demolition of the aforesaid fence or any part of it through natural causes or otherwise, the owners of the fence will not reconstruct it without a specific resolution of the town board authorizing its replacement or reconstruction. The resolution shall in no way affect the rights, if any, of any other public entities, public utilities in or to said easement. The record owners of the proposed fence of the town of Webster will enter into a licensing agreement incorporating all the conditions of this resolution in form and substance as approved by the town attorney, and which will further provide that the owners, at their expense, will record the licensing agreement in Monroe County Clerk's Office.
Second.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. And Bill, like we said to Scott, town attorney Genesi will be in contact with you. We have all your information. You know, there's fees for the license agreement. There's, as Councilman Abbott said, it'll be on you to file the new map. And then please just don't start putting up the fence tomorrow.
No, understood.
Okay, there is a process, you know that.
Absolutely.
So, you're good?
All right, have a good night. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Bill.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank you.
The next one,
He has to put the fence up because he's putting a pool in the ground.
yeah,
It was either fence around the pool or fence around the property.
yeah,
So he's just doing what he's supposed to do.
yeah. I don't know really if anybody I should add the baton to explain this, because I know that at the last board meeting, if I remember correctly, Barry, you went outside to show Chris Bilo and,
To look to see where they're construction, where they're going to construct it, and to advise them of the conditions of the area that they're.
Ron Camps.
Yeah, where they're gonna
And,
put it.
you were happy with what you went over with them?
It doesn't make any difference if I'm happy or not.
Oh, it makes a difference.
They just
Barry.
need to know what they might be getting
Right.
into,
And they're aware of that, right?
and they're aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, because I was with Chris today, and this was when he said, I hope it's okay if I don't come tonight. He thought this was somewhat of a slam dunk based on what had been described. He does know he's got to go now through the building building permit. And if that gets all done, he says that they'll have this thing done in a day.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So, proposed resolution to authorize the Miracle Field of Greater Rochester, the approval to design and construct a 20 by 30 open-air picnic shelter near the southeast corner of the Carpus Family Playground, located on the town property at 1000 Ridge Road, Webster, New York, 14580. All funds for this project will be paid for by the Miracle Field of Greater Rochester.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Aye. I think we're making up on the 5 minutes. I'm going to just say with the last two resolutions, because, and I hope I don't jinx myself, they're pretty boilerplate, pretty housekeeping. Karen, the number for call-ins is 872-7011. If anybody has a call-in, they might want to think about doing it, because I think the formal part of this meeting is going to be over in about 2 minutes. I wonder if my prediction comes true. I have a resolution here to declare the following an asset transfer from the Webster Assessor's Office to the Supervisor's Office for Kim Doyle, a true two-door drawer file cabinet, which is asset number 3185.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. And Kim Doyle is very thankful that that's coming. And last but not least, a resolution to declare the following asset surplus from the Webster Special Police to Van Bortle Ford. It's a 2003 Ford truck, asset number 2251.
Is this a trade-in?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're trading in on their truck that they're
is
getting.
that,
Yeah, I
okay.
believe it's a trade-in.
Second.
I'm sorry.
I think me.
Oh,
Could yeah.
Bill, you seconded?
I do.
Oh, Barry, so I'm sorry, excuse me. Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
So, because I made the announcement 2 minutes ago, I started 5 minutes late. I don't want to shortchange anybody calling in, but we got about 3 minutes. And we'll do our going around the table. I don't know if this is, because this was the special police that had the trade-in on this last resolution, I met with the police leadership team the other day, and Barry, I haven't told you this, they have had good conversations with the special police and are dovetailing toward.
I met with them as well.
Thing.
I met with them
It
yesterday.
sounds good.
Yeah.
It's
going well.
Yeah, that's good.
And I also met with Joe Martino, who's
Right.
on that, and he
He
was,
used to be the
he
special.
was very positive.
Yeah, that's what Chief Rieger and Lieutenant Thomas and Bosnick said too, so I'm very happy to hear that. Bill, anything?
Nope.
Barry?
We had a ProSAR, which is Parks Recreation Open Space Committee meeting on Monday night. Our first meeting since the COVID. And with Chris, their first meeting with Chris. And it went very well, and we had a lot of discussion about this and that. And other than that, we're getting things going again, and that was good. Met with the chief and his two lieutenants at the meeting the other day, and we discussed a lot of the things that you were discussing. And
Barry, did I see on an agenda someplace, I think it was when I was on the Ready call on Tuesday, that on September 30th, we're reconvening for the first time at the Sandbar Park Committee?
that would be something that I'm not aware of.
Really? Well, okay, I've been meaning to ask you about it, because it had a date of September 30th is the first reconvening meeting of that.
Of that committee?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to check into that tomorrow.
Don't quote me on it.
I have been in touch with all of the members of the committee, and all 21 have responded to me positively that they want to remain on the committee. The one fellow I have not been able to get a hold of either by phone or by email. So everybody was on, is looking forward to getting going again.
Okay.
And I will check with Mark Bayer tomorrow on that.
I will say that I think it was Karis Manning from the DEC put out the agenda for the Ready call that we do now every week on Tuesdays. So she's the one that puts that agenda together. I don't know why she put September 30th
Okay.
as the Sandbar Park Committee, and maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
I might have missed
That would
it.
be interesting, because that's like a week and a half away, and
Yeah.
we don't have an agenda.
Okay, well, it might be something completely different. John?
Yes, Decals will be having their groundbreaking ceremony at, this coming Saturday at 9 o'clock at 1020 Jackson Road for what will be in the near future, hopefully, their new home.
That's great.
9 o'clock, right?
9 o'clock.
Paul?
As Tom mentioned, the full detailed budget will be in the Town Times the week of October 8th. There'll also be a summary within the Webster Herald. And we'll have the public hearing on October 15th, 7:30 p.m.
Josh?
Nothing to report
Good.
tonight.
And Dolly?
I think you've done a very admirable job under pressure since Friday the 4th with what is essentially, from July 20th, when we opened Town Hall back up without having to need an appointment,
Through Thursday, September 3rd, we averaged about 55 people coming into Town Hall, citizens. Since the tax bill came out, we're averaging a little over 200 people coming into Town Hall a day. It's a challenge to socially distance the citizens, it's a challenge, and you're doing a great job. But
I think you'll see your numbers down a little today.
it was down today, and you said that Barb Scott said once the installment payment deadline of the 15th comes and goes, you'll see it drop off as far as people coming in.
Correct.
And then that week of the 28th through the 1st,
Pick up again.
it'll pick up again, and so, yeah. That's interesting, I will say.
They definitely are utilizing M&T Bank, because we're really pushing that. We're receiving a lot of phone calls. So when we tell them that they can just go through the drive-through and not even get out of their car, they're pretty pleased with that.
Yeah.
So definitely the numbers are up there, that people are utilizing M&T.
Good, good. I know that I was in Irondequoit this past weekend to take my every other day walk with my mother, who leaves me in the dust, and she's, I'm going on Monday to pay my taxes at Irondequoit Town Hall. I'm like, why are you doing that? You're a big credit card miles points, and she was thrilled. We sat, I had my laptop, we paid it, and she got her points. She was pretty happy. So,
Yeah, we see a lot of people using that as well.
yeah. So. I don't think anybody wants to call us. It is 8:29. Unless anybody has anything else, this meeting is officially adjourned.